Premonition provides lots of different types of reports, and you can see the descriptions on the website, endlessly look at the different types of things that you can do with the data. But let's narrow it down a little bit. What are the most useful reports for an underwriter?
So you're right. I mean, Premonition has well over a dozen different reports. Again, you have a large database. It can be sliced and diced in just about every other way you can think of. But to simplify, when I think about it from the point of view of the underwriter, there are two reports that really come to my mind. The first is simply called the company report. So you use this if you have an applicant, so you ask for a report on that particular applicant, and then you will know how often that applicant is being sued, how often that applicant is suing others, where, in what subject matter, and beyond the particular type of liability that you're underwriting, and that's what's really cool part, right? So if you're underwriting LPL, it's not just how often your applicant has been sued for legal malpractice. One, you can probably get that in other places depending upon whether you're getting a warranty or not. But two, whether they're being sued for other things, criminal, credit, divorce, anything that would affect your judgment as an underwriter. Also, who have they sued? So that's simply called the company report, although obviously if the insured is an individual, it's on that individual. The other report that comes to my mind is more of an underwriting portfolio report, and that's called the risk report or the risk trend report. And that will tell an underwriting department where are the legal litigation trends, what types of cases have increased in frequency, in what jurisdictions, which have decreased in frequency, and what are some of the new types of cases that are being brought in, perhaps jurisdictions that those cases were not brought, in the past.
With regards to claims departments, what types of reports are most useful and bring the most value to a claims department?
So Premonition has really dozens of reports. When you have a database that has 87% of all civil cases and you're adding up to 1 million cases or more a day, you're having a lot of data on a lot of different aspects of those cases, and that can be sliced and diced in just about every way that you can think of. But there are 3 reports that come to my mind when I think about a claims department. And the first report, and often this is how claims departments first see whether Premonition adds value to them, is what we call an open case report. So that simply looks at all the open cases or a subset of all the open cases that a particular carrier will have, and then analyzes it on a sort of a medium level based upon the attorney that's chosen, the opposing attorney, the judge, and the jurisdiction, and marks that case in grades of hazard. So red, yellow, green. Green obviously means the combination looks good, go ahead, you go to trial, hopefully things will go well. Red is obviously opposite. Have a problem, you might want to get out of this right away, you might want to settle, etc., and of course yellow in between. But the open case report is often used with the second report. It's a case facts report. So you use the case facts reports by looking at all the red cases, maybe some of the yellow, to drill down exactly what is the aspect of that case that made it red or yellow. Is it the judge? Is it the opposing attorney? And then you can take a particular action step. For example, if you find out that the judge is okay, but the opposing attorney seems to be really good, for whatever reason, against the attorney you chose, well then, instead of settling, maybe have a second seater. Another attorney that's in that jurisdiction that has a better money ball hit ratio against a particular opposing attorney. And that's called a case facts report. Now, the third report that comes to my mind is the appeals report. Now, what that does is very, very cool. So, imagine you're a claims examiner and you've gone to trial and you either won or lost. And of course, whoever lost is now putting on appeal. Now you have a different issue in front of you. Do you continue with the appeal or do you settle on appeal? Now, part of that decision is, well, how good is the attorney that I have maybe he was great or she was great on the trial level, but how is she or he on the appellate level? Then you ask Premonition for the appeal report. That would give you a list of attorneys in the particular jurisdiction for that case, in that appellate jurisdiction, that have a higher hit ratio compared to their competitors. And you use that to determine whether to settle or whether to continue on your appeal. So for the claims examiner, I see the open case report, the case facts report, and the appellate report as probably the top 3 reports that would help them do his or her job.
From the perspective of claims within jurisdictions, we know that there are some friendly jurisdictions, some unfriendly, speaking from the perspective of a defense. What would you say is their value in being able to put specific win rate data behind that?
So one of the really cool things about Premonition is that it allows a claims department and a claims executive to see the exceptions to the general rule. Any good claims examiner will tell you that certain jurisdictions in the United States tend to be more pro-plaintiff than others. But, and decisions are made on claims based upon those sort of general, those general rules. But what isn't made is when those rules don't apply. The Premonition database are able to give you the exceptions, to be able to say, yes, X jurisdiction, and I won't say the obvious jurisdictions because you'll annoy someone that's listening to this video, but yes, in X jurisdiction, this tends to be more plaintiff-oriented. But if you're in front of this judge with this type of case and you have this attorney, especially against this other opposing attorney, the general rule doesn't apply. Go all the way and go to trial.
And so that holds also for judges on a specific level.
Exactly right. Exactly right. And there are certain judges that are generally plaintiff-oriented, and there are other judges that are generally defendant-oriented, and good local counsel will know that. But what good local counsel won't know is, again, the exceptions. That a particular judge tends to be plaintiff-oriented, except if you have this particular setup, this particular attorney against this other particular attorney, and for whatever reason he tends to go in the opposite direction, or she tends to go in the opposite direction. Again, we go back to the concept of the Moneyball theory of claims decision.
There was a story actually behind that in the data that we saw in Miami. There was a particular judge, and they were only giving judgments out to plaintiffs for auto cases 5% of the time. What we found interesting, and that's, in general, this judge is right on the average with their peers. It's very down the middle of the road judge. But for this case type, for whatever reason, very strict, and much more so than their peers. And what we found, interestingly enough, though, that there was one plaintiff attorney in that courtroom that was responsible for 70% of the judgments that have been handed out in that judge's courtroom for that case type. So again, finding the exceptions.
And that's really what it's about. In many ways, the beauty of Premonition is the ability to see the outliers, to see the exceptions to the rule. Because good attorneys, especially good local attorneys, will know generally the landscape, right? But what they won't know is the exceptions, because nobody pays attention to the exceptions. And the other beautiful thing about Premonition is that you don't have to know the reasons for the exceptions. You just have to know the exceptions exist. You don't have to know why this third baseman does a terrific job when this other one is on first base and this other one is on second base. You don't need to know why. You simply need to know it is in putting together your baseball team.